Let me now welcome Carlo Tursi. Carlo is CEO at UrbanV, and he will give a talk titled Urban Air Mobility Takes Off, UrbanV, and the Future of Vertiports. So welcome, Carlo. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much to be here, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. So for the next 12 minutes, I would like to take you all into in a future that is actually not very far away, not at all, as a matter of fact, which is the future in which our cities will be connected and will allow us to move from one place to the other, not only via ground transportation, as we currently do, but also using the third dimension, using air. In fact, I'm here to talk to you about flying taxis, given that this is the core of what we do at UrbanV. So we all grew up, I guess, with the idea, the dream of flying cars and being able to just skip traffic. And we often think about it, I guess, when we are stuck in traffic and we dream, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if I could just, take off, fly, and skip all this traffic to get to my destination faster. Well, turns out that that dream is becoming a reality probably faster than a lot of people think. In fact, we are about to see the first commercial operations with regular paying passengers on board flying taxis as early as next year, 2026. Not in Italy initially, in other countries, in particular in the Middle East, but this sort of technology and innovation is coming fast also to Europe and to Italy as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about UrbanV and what we do. So we are an Italian company backed by airport management companies. We're based in Italy, we're based in Rome. And what we focus on is actually not developing the vehicles themselves, the flying taxis. There's plenty of very well-funded companies doing that in fairly advanced stages of development and industrializations of those projects around the world. What we focus on is the ground infrastructure. In fact, you won't be able to get on a flying taxi and move from one side of the city to another until you won't have vertiports, which is the ground infrastructure for this new industry, which goes under the name of advanced air mobility. Vertiports are the equivalent of an airport or of a heliport, but effectively they are the places where in a fairly near future we will all be able to get on board of a flying taxi. In technical terms, these aircraft are called eVTOL, which stands for Electric Vertical Takeoff and Landing. Take off vertically, as the word says, reach our destination very quickly without facing any traffic, of course, and then land at another vertiport, and then from there reach our final destination. So what are these vehicles that we're talking about? They look much less like a car, and they look a bit more like sort of a crossover between a helicopter and a small aircraft. So they have rotors, many small rotors. So unlike a helicopter, which has one big central rotor, they have many small rotors, more like a drone, imagine a big drone. And sometimes they do have wings as well. Sometimes they don't, depending on the type of sort of mission, aerial mission that they're optimized for. And they have the cabin like a cabin of a helicopter or of a small aircraft. They typically will be able to carry somewhere between 3 to 6 passengers. So similar to the capacity of it that you have on a taxi, on a ground taxi, as a matter of fact. And one thing that is important, I think, to clarify, because there is a little bit of a misconception that these are flying drones with no human control, they will actually have a pilot on board. So there will be a professional pilot, just like you would have on a helicopter, when flying a helicopter or flying on an aircraft. There will be a professional certified pilot piloting this aircraft and taking us from point A to point B. The other, I guess, misconception about this vision of flying taxis is that very soon our skies are going to be sort of clogged with a bunch of these big drones, aircraft flying all over our heads. For those of you who have seen the movie Blade Runner, sort of like that dystopic future. In reality, the future that we're going towards looks much less like that and much more like a gradual small-scale initially introduction, orderly introduction of the service, where these vehicles, despite the definition of flying taxis, will operate much less like a taxi and much more like sort of a metro system of the skies. As a matter of fact, these aircraft will not be free to roam around our heads. They will move in virtual tunnels in a way. From there, the analogy with a metro system, with an underground system. Just these tunnels will be virtual, flying over our heads and connect specific stations which take the name of vertiports. And this vertiports is what we take care of, what we develop at UrbanV. The nice thing about this form of transportation is that it's electric. And by virtue of it being electric, it is a zero emission form of mobility. Not only that, because of it being electric and because of the way of the distributed propulsion that you have with like many small rotors, anywhere between 6 to 8 to even 16 to 18 small rotors, depending on the type of aircraft that you're looking at, effectively these vehicles are very, very quiet. They're way quieter than a helicopter would be. As a matter of fact, helicopters are not allowed to fly commercially over our cities almost anywhere in the world. There's literally very few exceptions that probably can be counted on the fingers of just one hand all over the world. This aircraft, eVTOL, instead, will be allowed to fly over our heads, will be allowed to fly over cities and to land also in close proximity to places where people live and work, because of them being very quiet. They are so quiet, and when they just fly over your head, you actually cannot even hear them. The noise gets blended into the normal noise that you have on average in any given city, given by the traffic and the city noises. So they're quiet, they're zero emission, and they're coming, and they're about to change the face, to contribute to changing the face of our cities and the way we live our cities. You know, we often hear people talk about a 15-minute cities, and you know, there's conceptually two ways you can achieve a 15-minute city, right? One way is to bring services close to people. The other way is to shorten distances by bringing people closer to services. And you know, having the ability to move very quickly by air, avoiding traffic, is one of those ways you can do that. You can achieve that. Imagine being able to fly from Malpensa Airport to city center in 15 minutes, from Rome Fiumicino Airport to city center in 15 minutes, from Milan to Monza in 15 to 20 minutes. You know, suddenly, but even from one side of Milan to the other, you know, skipping traffic in you know, peak hours during high congestion. The nice thing about this technology is that in perspective, it has the potential to be fairly affordable. It won't necessarily be priced very low in the initial years of operations, just because you're going to have, you know, a very gradual introduction. So you're going to have very few aircraft, very few seats being sold in the initial years. But the advantage of electric propulsion compared to, you know, internal combustion engine propulsion is that it allows for very affordable economics, where building, owning, and maintaining those aircraft is way cheaper than owning and maintaining a helicopter. Plus, you don't have to buy fuel. It's only, you know, you recharge the batteries of this aircraft. And as a consequence of that, there is the potential for this form of transportation over time, and not over decades, but probably over, you know, the span of a few years, to become actually quite affordable, probably not very distant from the price of a ground taxi that we are used to take, you know, or maybe of an Uber Black in the initial years, with the only difference that an Uber Black still gets you stuck into the same traffic you would get stuck into in a normal taxi or in your own car, whereas these aircraft have the potential to skip traffic and to typically, you know, get you from point A to point B in less than 15, 20 minutes. Vertiports are, which is what we focus on, are an element that will contribute to changing and transforming the face of our cities. You will have vertiports on rooftops sometimes, but most often you will have them on the ground. In some cases, you might even imagine having floating vertiports, and vertiports will be not only places where we will be able to quickly get on board this aircraft or deboard the aircraft to reach our final destination. They will be inevitably, because of the nature of this form of mobility, they will be multimodal mobility hubs. So they will be very well connected with other forms of ground transportation, typically public transport, train, air transport, so airports, etc. But they will also be places where people will have the opportunity to just, sit for a coffee and enjoy the view of this new form of futuristic form of mobility, while maybe working remotely or meeting a friend. When and where is this happening? So as of today, it looks like the first commercial flights with regular paying passengers on board these kind of flying taxis are slated to take place in the United Arab Emirates, in particular in the city of Dubai, but potentially also in Abu Dhabi in early 2026, which is less than a year from today. There's a number of developments all over the world. As UrbanV, we are active in the Emirates, we're active in Saudi Arabia, but we're also active in the US, in Latin America, Brazil, Colombia, and a few other markets in Southeast Asia. We're also very present in Europe as being a European company. And Europe has some very strong advantages, including the fact that from a regulatory standpoint, we are even readier than other markets. So regulation are already in place. It sounds like regulating this new space could be very complicated. It is, but I should say it was, because it has been regulated by now. So regulations are in place. We just need to have vehicles that are certified by the authorities. Authorities set a very high safety standards for these vehicles. They, in order for them to be certified, they will need to be over 100 times safer than helicopters. So the level of safety that is required of this aircraft is the same level of safety that is required of like commercial planes, the typical Airbus and Boeing planes that we're all used to get on board to fly from one city to the next. So if we feel comfortable flying on an airplane, we should feel equally comfortable flying on board of one of these aircraft and on these flying taxis. And so in Europe, we are ready, and we expect the first certifications in Europe to arrive sometime towards 2027. And at that point, we will be ready. We are already securing key location, key sites, and starting to develop vertiport projects in Italy, in France, in Spain, and a few other markets. So you can expect that by 2027, 2028, also Europe and also Italy will start seeing the first vertiports pop up, seeing the first flying taxis take off. And so all of us will have very soon the opportunity to just book a ticket and fly from one place to the other within our cities. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you.